Matthew, the 25th chapter, beginning with the 31st verse. Sheep and the goats, appropriate for a fair time. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered together before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right, and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." Now, at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus tells his disciples, "I will be with you always, to the end of the age." And I think most of the time we don't read that right. We think of, he's going to be in our hearts. He's going to guide us. He's going to take care of us. As we obey the Great Commission and take the gospel to the world, and we go into the dark and dangerous places, he'll go with us. Now, that's all true. But it's not the whole story. "I will be with you always" means more than that. Because if you read the Gospels, there's one other thing that Jesus says the disciples will always have. Now you think, well, what? They got Jesus. They're always going to have Jesus. What else do they need? But there's one other thing he says will always be with you. And Jesus says, the poor will always be with you. I never got that connection before. But there's only two things that Jesus tells the disciples they will always have with him and the poor. Personally, if I get to pick one other thing besides Jesus to have with me always, probably not going to be the poor. Probably going to be something else. But that's what he promised. I don't think it's a coincidence that these are the only two things that Jesus said the disciples would always have with him, and by extension that we will always have with us. Because who is Jesus talking about here in this scripture, if not the poor? You were hungry, you were a stranger, you were thirsty, you were sick, you were in prison. That's the poor. Jesus says, when fed the hungry person, you fed me. When you clothed the naked person, you clothed me. When you gave water to the thirsty child, you gave water to me. When you cared for the sick, you cared for me. When you visited those in prison, you visited me. We like to think of when Jesus said, I will be with you, we think of Jesus living inside ourselves. You know, well, he knocked on the door of my heart, I opened my heart, he lives inside me now. But it's not just me, and it's not just us. It's everyone. Now, if Jesus lives in everyone, what's that mean? Well, first it means some people do a real good job of hiding the fact that Jesus lives within them. You know, I've known lots of people, I've looked at them in a long time, I watched their lives, and, you know, I can't tell they got Jesus in them. Some of them even call themselves Christian, and I can't tell they have Jesus in them. We can do a good job of hiding Christ within us. One of the images Jesus used to talk about himself is light. And I compare it to a lamp. With a lampshade on it. And if you've got a good lampshade on the light, you get a nice soft glow coming off the lamp. But it's funny, you go to the house of somebody who smokes 2 packs a day, and you get a dull glow coming off the light. Why? Because that lampshade is covered in soot and smoke from the tobacco and is dull. And the dirtier the lampshade is, the less light shines forth from the light bulb. Jesus is shining within you. Jesus is shining within everybody. And some of us, and some people, live transparently. It's like you put the light in a chandelier. You put a glass vase over it or something, and all the light shines out brightly. Most of us were like that old lampshade. We've gotten dirty. We block some of the light, but you can still tell there's a light shining there. And there are some people, you can't tell if the light's on or off. They got so much blocking the view, keeping the light from shining. And likewise, there are people in this world that if you find out they're hungry, you have no problem feeding them. If you find out they're sick, you have no problem visiting them. And if you heard they were in prison, you wouldn't believe it, and you'd have no problem visiting them because you want to find out how in the world they got put in prison. And then there are others. Well, I've done prison ministry. And I don't like it. And you sit there and you know they're lying to your face. And when they're praying with you, you know they don't believe a word they're saying. They're just hoping you believe a word they're saying. There are people that are easy to love, and there are people that are hard to love. There are people that we look at and we see Jesus in them. And there are people we look at and we don't. Jesus tells us not to worry about what we see. He said, when you help the least of these, you help me. Which means when you help any of them, you help me. Jesus did not say, if someone comes to you and they're hungry, get them a job. He didn't say, if someone comes to me and they're thirsty, preach them a sermon. If they're a stranger, make sure they're from the right place. He put no qualifications on it. We feed them not because they deserve to be fed, but because they're hungry. We give them water not because they deserve a drink, but because they're thirsty. And when we do that for them, we do it for Him. Jesus is clear that it's not only those who fail who will be surprised that they have failed. It's those who have blessed Him that will be surprised that they have blessed Him. He said, the righteous will say, when, Lord, did we do all these things for you? Now here's the secret. Nothing we have to offer Christ is anything He needs for Himself. We cannot do anything for Jesus that He needs for Himself, because He doesn't need anything. And He certainly doesn't need anything that we can offer Him. So He's like that rich relative you have that you have no idea what to buy for Christmas because he's got everything he wants. You know somebody like that? Probably. It's real hard to figure out what to get him. And Jesus says, don't give it to me. Give it to them. You don't need to go out and find Jesus and feed Him. You find Jesus in the face of every hungry child, of every sick man, of every stranger, of every woman in prison. That's where you find Jesus. That's where you love Jesus. That's where you bless Jesus. Everything that you're thankful for, that Jesus has done for you, that you want to repay to Him, pay it forward. Pay it to the least of these. Feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, welcome the stranger in, care for the sick, visit those in prison. Actual acts, not just feel good about somebody, do something for somebody because they need it. This Jesus. Not just by praying to him or praising him or singing songs and thanking him. We love Jesus in our acts of love to the least of these.